Hey bookworms, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new, it's Sam, and in today's video we're going to talk about the books that I will always recommend that if you've not read already you should definitely read this year. So starting off is a book that was in first place out of my top 15 books of the year, and that is Kristen Hanna's The Nightingale. This is a World War II book set in France, Paris, and we follow two sisters. Their journey throughout this book is absolutely remarkable and heartbreaking. Our character Isabel was one of my favourites of the two sisters. She's just incredibly brave for her age, but I also adored the other sister, Vivian. I think I'm saying her name right. Yeah, this is just one of those books I don't want to say too much about because I don't want to give anything away, but I will say that if you're going to read this book you definitely get the tissues ready because you are going to cry. I was crying pretty much all the way through this book. It honestly broke my heart so many times. There was points that I had to physically put this book down because I was crying so hard. This book is just so real and raw, and it just tells the story of what it was like back then through World War II, how evil Nazis were and just how they did not care, and how for women it was very difficult. You know, their husbands were sent away and they're just trying to survive and get put in these impossible situations, and then you have the one sister who is just trying to make it better and fight back because she doesn't want to sit there and be silent. And I honestly love that about this book. And yeah, this is just one of those books that I will forever recommend. And if you honestly haven't read this book, you need to. Even if you don't read historical fiction, I still recommend reading this book. It's absolutely beautifully written, and Kristen Hanna is one of my favourite authors. This book I don't think any other book could ever top when it comes to historical fiction. Like, I just can't imagine anything ever topping this book. It will be a favourite for the rest of my life. Next up is another book that was also in my top 15 books of the year. I'm going to link that video below because a lot of these books were probably on that list. This is a book that is very hyped in the book community. Some people don't like it, but a lot of people do, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I was really afraid to read this book, and the only reason I picked it up, I think in February of 2021, was because my partner and my mum actually both voted for it. I'd asked them to vote between 3 books and this is the one they picked. Most of you probably know what the story is, but I'll give you a brief description. And we follow a character called Addie who isn't happy with living in her little village where women basically get married and have kids and that's it. She wants to explore and see what else is out there. She doesn't want to get married, so she prays to the gods to stop that from happening. She accidentally prays to the gods after dark and ends up making this deal. So Addie is to live forever. She's to be immortal, but it comes at a cost because everybody forgets her. She could have a conversation with someone and they leave the room, come back in, and they've completely forgotten about her. Honestly, this book made me feel so lonely and so sad for Addie that you become quite desperate, hoping that someone will remember her. And I just think that's incredible that the author can make you feel this way. It's definitely a slow start because we do get Addie's story before all of this happens, but I feel like it's so important. And we do get another point of view in this book from a character called Henry, which at first I didn't fully enjoy until later on because I just wanted to read Addie's character. I absolutely loved her. If you guys want to see my review for this book and also see the illustrations aside, then you can check out my review that I will link below. If you haven't read it, which I'm surprised if people haven't already because it's just one of those books I feel like everyone has, but if you haven't, you definitely have to pick this up and give it a try because it's honestly amazing. Next up is another historic fiction, and I bought it based on the cover. It was just stunning, and yeah, guilty because I bought it because the cover was pretty nice. The Lost Apothecary. This book is a historic fiction that switches between 2 timelines. We have the, I think it's 1800s. Yeah, so it's the 18th century London, and then we go to the modern time. So in the 18th century we follow 2 characters, and in the current present time we follow a character called Caroline. So we follow a 12-year-old girl who ends up working with our main character who runs a Lost Apothecary shop. She kind of like deals out these poisons to women so they can kill their husbands. Nella basically deals out these potions to these women who buy them secretly and then kill their husbands. One day Nella meets a little girl, Eliza, who's coming to buy one of these potions, and then eventually Eliza ends up working with Nella. I think it's like just for a day or so. She's helping her out, and then this mistake gets made which just starts to be the undoing of what's going on. And then in Caroline's life, we follow in her life, like she's got some issues with her partner. She's come to London on her own, and she ends up going mudlarking and finding this final and starts looking into the history of the Lost Apothecary, find out information, and we start getting all these secrets coming out. It's such a brilliant fun read that honestly, like when people ask me about historic fiction, this is probably one of the books along with The Nightingale that I just recommend. People have said that this is a fantasy. This is not a fantasy, it is historic fiction mystery, and it's perfect. Sometimes one timeline is always stronger than the other timeline, but in this book it wasn't like that. It was split evenly. We had secrets coming out in both timelines that felt like it's the right time for it to come out. I absolutely loved Caroline and her passion of history and to find out more about the Lost Apothecary. I was geeking out about that because I feel like this is something I would do. Also, I never knew Medliken was a thing, so I want to do that now and find some awesome stuff. I probably wouldn't end up finding anything because I'm not that lucky, but this book is honestly just absolutely beautiful. It's not like there's constant action, but there's just something about this book that I just got through really quickly. But the ending, oh my god, the last like 100 something pages of this book was so fast paced, so much was going on that I was just like, oh my god, like I was on the edge of my seat. And honestly, I would love a sequel to this book, and I did hear rumours there was going to be one, but now I can't find any information about that. However, this has been turned into a TV series, apparently, so yeah. Next up is a book that everybody would have heard of. I mean, I heard about this book so many times and I was just not interested in it. It's not my type of story, honestly, it just wasn't. But then I gave in when I saw that the 2 special editions were on sale and best choice I made, because that is The Six of Crows. This book is written beyond wow. These characters are so well thought out and so realistic. Cass Brecker? Yeah. He's my favourite character ever. I just feel like the characters in this book stand out so much that once you read this book, you can't forget about them. So we follow these 6 characters that like sort of misfit characters that all have individual skills, and they're kind of like this gang, and they all come together because they're going to go and do this heist to break someone out of a prison. Honestly, this book just has so much action, like action after action after action after action. This is set in the same universe as the Shadow and Bone series, the Grishers and stuff like that. Some people believe that you should read those 3 books first. I didn't. I went straight into the Six of Crow books first, and yeah, I don't regret it. I have read the Shadow and Bone now. I don't feel like it ruins anything, to be honest, and I just feel like this is the better written book of them. Clearly so much effort went made into this, and I don't again want to talk about too much of this book because I don't want to spoil it, and when I finished it, I hadn't planned to do this, but I read the sequel straight away because I just couldn't wait. I was like, I've got the sequel, I need to read this straight away, I need to know what's going to happen. But out of the sequel and this one is the one I obviously would recommend. I mean, I'm not going to recommend the sequel because you have to read this one first. So Six of Crows is one of those books I feel like everyone has to read, even if you don't feel like it's your type of book. Like me, I was definitely shocked and proven wrong because wow, this is worth so much more than just 5 stars. Next up is a book that was in second place on my top 5 books of the year, well, top 15, but in top 5 this one's second place, and it probably would have been number 1 if it wasn't through The Nightingale, and that is Finley. Donovan is killing it. This is a mystery book with a comedian feel to it, and honestly I didn't think I was going to enjoy this book. I bought it because it was on sale, and I only read it because I did a vote between this book and another book, and everyone picked this one. Like, I think 68% of people, or even 80% of people, voted for this, and I am so glad that they did because I loved every single second of this book. I laughed, I was on the edge of my seat. Oh my god, I had so many different emotions reading this, and this has probably got some of my favourite characters and favourite moments, favourite duo. So Finley's character has is working with her ex-nanny, aka is a nanny still, and yeah, I just love them together. So if you don't know what this book is about, we follow a character called Finley who is writing a book. She's kind of also in like a bit of a struggle slump with it, and her agent's kind of putting pressure onto her to get it done. She's also in a battle, like custody battle with her ex-husband as well, and she's struggling for money. One day Finley is meeting with her agent talking about her book, and she gets mistaken as a hit woman. She goes away from her table to put the plates or rubbish away. She comes back and there's a piece of paper on the table. When she looks at it, it's got a name of a guy and a large sum of money written on it. And this woman wants Finley to kill her husband for I don't know, 30 to 40,000. It's a lot of money. The book pretty much starts from there, and so much stuff happens, and Finley just finds herself in these situations that is just hilarious, but at the same time there's so many thrilling and mystery moments, and the comedian side to the mystery side fit together really well. Like, it just slots in together that I feel like this book without the comedian side would not have worked. One of my issues at first I thought was like, wow, this comedian side is going to take away the seriousness, but it doesn't. It just makes it feel more real. Yeah. I don't want to say too much about this book. I feel like you've got to go in and read this and discover it yourself, but I guarantee you will not be bored, and I absolutely love this book. It's a favourite, an all-time favourite, probably one of my favourite mysteries ever. And the sequel comes out soon, and that comes out on the 1st of February. And currently, as we're speaking, I think it's the 12th of January. So we have about 2.5 weeks, and I can't wait because I'm going to read it straight away. It's actually the hardback version as well, because the paperback version came out way later in the year, and I'm not waiting. Like, there's no way. Like, that's not going to happen, but oh my god. I love this book so much. I'm actually going to be doing a review on this book super soon, so definitely keep your eyes open for that one. Next up is a book that is a thriller. Honestly, for me, it's very rare that I read a thriller where I don't predict what's going to happen, or at least some of it. That doesn't really change my rating. It depends on the situation of the book, but this one surprised me, and that is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Now, we follow this character who you can't really trust. She's got a lot of issues, you know? She's very untrustworthy, and she's gone back to her university for a reunion. Now, 10 years before this, one of their friends had got murdered and their other friend has been falsely accused, and now they've gone back. They're going to try and figure out who it is, and we get like flashbacks to what happened, and we switch between the two timelines. But for me, what made this book really unique is following a main character that you could not trust. Oh, it just made me so attached to the story and so engrossed in it. But the ending, when we find out who did it, I was not expecting it. I actually cried as well at the certain scene where you see the murder take place and what happened. But then, there's another twist that happens that I was like, what? Like, this author, she knows how to just throw these bombs into your lap, and you're trying to deal with that, and then something else will happen, and something else will happen, and it's just like, oh my god, your head is like, your brain's literally trying to keep up with what's going on. But this is just one of my favourite thrillers ever. It's so good, and I will read from this author again. I actually picked it up because of Gabby Reed. She was raving about this book so much. I was like, okay, well, kind of want to see what it's about, and I'm so glad I did. So thank you to Gabby, because if it went through Gabby, I would not have picked this up, and it's now a favourite. Like, oh my gosh, it's also, what the hell? It's the cover's on the back upside down. Let me just sort that out. Why is my thing burnt? I'm not happy. My partner did this, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, my partner does not have respect for my books. You got anything to say about that, Aaron?
Huh? What's happening?
You put this on upside down, and then you bent this.
I did not do that. That was the cat.
He's gonna be a dead boyfriend. Anyway, moving past that drama. Next up is a book that's also a mystery. Probably one of my favourite mysteries. And I recently read the sequel to this as well. That was also a 5 stars along with the first one, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This book is talked about so much, and at first I was very apprehensive, I can't say that word, about going into it because it's YA. I thought it was going to read young, like really young, and it doesn't. This is so good. Oh my god, it's so good. We follow Pitt, who is doing a school report investigating a murder that had happened, but she ends up starting to discover a lot more about this case and decides to start solving the case, and a lot of stuff happens. Like, she gets in danger. She has this brilliant relationship with Ravi. Like, the two together are just awesome. Ravi is the brother of the boy who's actually accused of murdering our main character. Well, not main character, but the character who was murdered. So Sal and Andy are both dead, and Sal is accused of murdering Andy. Pip doesn't believe that's what's happened and decides to solve it. I actually listened to the audio while I read this one, and I definitely recommend that. I don't think I could listen to this because I only got one more book left. I don't think I could listen to the last book without listening to the audio, because those voices now are what I recognise as these characters. This is something that if you've not read, please read it, because it's so good. It's worth all the hype. Like, this is worth all the hype. It's so brilliant. Next up is probably the only romance that's kind of contemporary as well on this list, and that is The Float Plan. This is one of my anticipated reads from 2021. Like, it was one of the books I was most excited for, along with one other one. And this book did not disappoint. The setting is set on this yacht most of the time in the ocean, which I fell in love with. There's so many beautiful moments in this book with like meaning settings. And then you get these beautiful moments on this island. We follow a character called Anna, who basically lost her fiance to suicide. They had planned to go and do this like journey on the yacht, and she decides to go and do it anyway without him, but she's not very good at sailing, so she ends up enlisting the help of a guy called Kian, who also has his own issues. He's got like a prosthetic leg, and you do find out the story about what happened there. The story's pretty much dealing with Anna trying to deal with life without her fiance, and she goes through like the grief, and she has happy moments, but then she also has like these moments where she's really angry. There's these moments in this book that just honestly tear out your heart, and you feel so sorry for her, because you would be angry that this person that you love so much did take his life, and now you're left in this world to like kind of figure it all out. Then there's these moments where she's like, she doesn't want to think about him, she doesn't want the memory of him to taint these new memories she's making. And I don't know, it's such a beautifully written book, and it made me tear up for so many different reasons. If you're wanting a book that's like full-on romance, then this is definitely not it for you, because like I said, it is contemporary romance, and the romance is very slow build, but I feel like it made this book feel so real. And it's just one of those books that I will always recommend because it's beautiful, and it's, I feel like, unique. It's heart-wrenching, but also absolutely beautiful at the same time for the story and the setting. And when I finished this book, I kept turning the pages like, wait, what? It's over? It's over? No! And I'm definitely going to plan to reread this summer. I might do a reading vlog for this one, which might be spoiler. I'm not sure yet. You have to let me know in the comments if you want me to do that, or if you'd rather be spoiler free. And I think this is a debut novel as well, and if that's the case, like, wow. It's proof that people should not judge books like this as a debut, because, you know, clearly a lot of thought went into this book. It's absolutely incredible. Next up is the second book that I was most excited for next year, that I felt like I was waiting my entire life. Everybody was talking about it. A lot of people in America got it first, I think it's the way it released first, and I was sitting there like, can I have a copy now? Like, please. And it got delayed as well in the UK, and I was like, what? I was having a breakdown because of like this delay, and I was like, no, I need to read this book. And that is Riley Sager's Home Before Dark. I love this book. We follow a character called Maggie whose dad has died, and he left her this house, except this house is supposed to be haunted. Now, also inside this book, you get a book. So you get the dad's book called The House of Horrors that he wrote about the house that they fled one night, and it's supposed to be haunted, and he talks about all this paranormal stuff that's happening. But Maggie doesn't believe that, and neither does a lot of people in the town. So she goes back to this house to renovate it and sell it, but a lot of stuff starts happening. A lot of creepy stuff. I adored how this book went from Maggie's like point of view in the house, and then you get a chapter of the dad's book, and it kept doing that. And then the reveal at the end was just so good and so unexpected. And oh my god, Riley Sager is just so good at writing. And I've read another one of his books called Survive the Night, which I know a lot of people did not like, but I did. I don't feel like I can fault Riley Sager. Bear in mind that like I've not read much of his books, just two, but I am reading one of his other books this month called Lock Every Door, so yay. But also I don't feel like any of his other books will ever top this one. I feel like this one will always remain my favourite, and this is the one I'd always recommend to people. Will always be Home Before Dark, because it's so good. It's got paranormal stuff, creepiness, a book inside a book. It's written really well, and it's got twists, and the ending is just incredible. And finally, this is a book I literally finished 2 days ago as of the date that I'm filming, which is a book that I read because it was a prompt given to me by Chelsea from Not So Secret Bookaholic. I will link both our videos below so you can go and check them out of our collab. Part 2 will be coming up at the end of January, beginning of February, when we do the wrap up, and that is The Nature of Wishes. I was not expecting this book to be a favourite, to be a book that I will always recommend. If people ask me for a book that's about witches, that's got magic, and that I feel like is worth recommending, then this is the one I'd go for. It's just felt unique and so different, and I find it really hard to fall in love with books about witches because they're always very similar. With this book, we follow this character called Clara, who is training in the school, and how the magic system works is just so well thought out. So each witch, well, not each witch, but witches have seasons, and during those seasons their magic is the strongest. However, Clara is never a witch. She's one of the first witches in hundreds of years, so her magic is strong every season, so she changes with the seasons, and she's supposed to be like a really super strong witch. However, there's a lot of stuff that happens in this book where Clara doesn't really want her magic, and she's really trying to train, but they they say that because she's so powerful, she's kind of needed and a lot of pressure is put on her. But I just love how, as well, like her personality sort of changes like each season as well. So for example, winter witches in the summer, their magic is a lot weaker. So if they try to use their magic with something that's happening during a season that's not supposed to be happening, but winter witches is supposed to. So for example, let's say something that happens in the winter is happening in the summer, so winter witches would normally try and help with that, but because their magic is not as strong because it's summer, they end up getting wishes being depleted, meaning that they die. This book deals with like climate change, and the shaders are the humans, and they kind of take advantage of the situation that witches will be there to help. And honestly, this is just brilliant. I listened to the audiobook as I read, and my partner was kind of listening to it as well, and he immediately was like, I would give that book 5 stars, despite the fact that, by the way, he did not listen to the entire book. He listened to, I feel like, the beginning and end, so he missed the middle. But he was like saying how much he liked what he heard. By the way, I've not read Harry Potter. I'm sure if I had read Harry Potter that would be a favourite, but I haven't read it. So is this one. So that is my 10 books I will always recommend, and if you haven't read any of them, please go read them because they're amazing. And let me know if you have read them, what you thought, if any of these are your favourites that you would always recommend, because I love them so much. And I'm just wondering next year if I'll be recommending the same ones or it'll be different. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It would mean a lot. Subscribe if you want to see more videos, and turn on that notification bell so you get alerted when I next upload. And until next time, bye!